Cue the cheesy podcast music.
Welcome to MegaFest, where we don't just manifest, we MegaFest. I'm your host, Megs Malloy. I'm creating a community of silly and soulful working moms who are mostly happy, but know they're capable of more. More self-love, more self-esteem, more self-trust, more calm, joy, natural highs, more magic in the world, and more laughter. Each week, me and my guests will bring you tips and tricks on how to make the most of your one precious life. And we're going to make them effective and efficient because ain't nobody got time for that. I believe in you. I see the light in you. I want you to shine your light. I want you to become all that you're capable of. So let's hang out. Let's MegaFest together. Woohoo! Woohoo! Episode 20. Oh, we're really getting up there. Thank you for being here today. I'm so honored to be in your ear today. Thank you. And if you're watching, I see you. Thank you. Can I tell you, I just absolutely loved today's interview with Katie Grimes. Today's episode is all thanks to Bera Man of episode 4. Yay, Bera! Way back in January, you invited me to this dance party on the beach that we weren't sure what it was going to be like, but let's get out of our comfort zone and try it. And we definitely wore animal onesies. Bera let me borrow her panda bear onesie, and she wore her shark onesie. And the two of us stroll up to this silent disco on the beach. We're just vibing. We're just like, yes, we're so ready for this. So you get there, you check in, they give you a headphone, and everybody's got the same music on their headphone. The event started, and all of a sudden there was this super intense downpour of rain, and it was kind of a rainy day, but I don't know if the rain was in the forecast. So the rain comes, I see Katie look at Curly, her wife, and she's like, should we stop? What is happening? Curly's like, no, it's okay. Let's keep going. And as soon as the rain started, it stopped. And there was this amazing double rainbow in the sky. It was just like full on movie miracle. So our wonderful host, Katie, had us write in the sand what our intentions were for the day. I think my intention was to laugh and to have fun. And then she had us do this exercise where we draw a box around ourselves and we try and get small and stay in the box. And then at some point with a rising of the music, we bust out of the box and start dancing around the beach. And there's a lot of circle formations, and she brought bubbles, she brought ribbons. I am such a fan of props. So props to you, Katie, for bringing the props. As we went through the high point of the dancing, and then I wouldn't say low, but the more mellow, sort of introspective part, and then the sun started to set, and there was all these kinds of beautiful rain clouds all over. It was just the best. It was the coldest day, but it was the best day to go and be on the beach and do this. So we are a silent disco. There were hugs at the end. There was some sharing about everyone's experience. We passed around the microphone. At our particular silent disco, there was a woman who shared that she was there with her family to show her kids that she was strong and she was brave, because as it turns out, she was already deaf in one ear and she was going deaf in the other ear. And oh my gosh, if you think you've got it bad, talk about, I just totally felt for this woman, and it made it so much more magical that this silent disco meant so much more to her than just dancing on the beach. It was an act of defiance and reclaiming her body and showing her kids that she wasn't going to take it lying down, which is such a beautiful story. And that's actually kind of come to find out what Katie did. As you'll hear in this episode, she was at one point, she was in a wheelchair, and you would never guess that of her from from meeting her on the beach and frolicking around, but she has gone through her own journey. And here's her bio. Katie Grimes is a dance and movement facilitator and the creator of So We Are Silent Disco, the healing silent disco in Long Beach, California. Katie is trained in dance movement therapy and is passionate about manifestation, embodiment, and using movement as medicine. So We Are Silent Disco has been featured in the LA Times and in an upcoming docuseries. Pretty cool. And I'm not surprised because it is the next best thing and always will be a great thing. Katie found this work and her passion for healing because she struggled with chronic illness, chronic pain, and disordered eating for the majority of her adult life. She found herself constantly abandoning and disregarding her body entirely. Katie created So We Are Silent Disco to help pass on her healing and provide a safe space for others to explore themselves and reunite with their inner wisdom and power. And I could tell you that I surely did. And at this point, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Megs, what's the word of the day? I will tell you the word of the day. The word of the day is scintillating. Scintillating. Oh, it means sparkling or shining brightly. Brilliantly and excitingly clever or skillful, very lively and interesting. And I think you will agree, once you've heard this episode, that Katie Grimes is a scintillating individual. I learned so much from Katie in this interview. I hope you enjoy it too. And I'll see you after the interview for a quick recap. All right, Katie Grimes. Yay! Yay! Welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here with you and see you again.
Yes, I know. It's such a happy day that our friend Bera invited me to go to So We Are Silent Disco. And I just immediately was like, Katie, you need to come talk to these peeps because you just have like such a scintillating, amazing therapy for people. Stop. It really is. I thoroughly enjoyed the So We Are Disco. And we're going to get into that. First, though, like any good Irish host, I will ask you, at this party, what will you have to drink?
Well, I currently have a coffee from Starbucks. I am a coffee fiend, and I basically pay Starbucks' light bill at this point. And so I pretty much will always have a coffee with me, and I love it. Today it's iced. Sometimes it's hot, but just a little iced coffee this morning.
Yeah, which one did you get?
I get the ice shaken brown sugar espresso. That's what I got today. I normally get like a little latte with oat milk from either Starbucks or Coffee Bean, but today's Starbucks. I think I just wanted that cold energy to wake me up, and so here we are.
So, Katie, what are you famous for?
I would say that I am famous for being a free spirit, which includes dancing and frolicking on the beach and just through life. Like my entire life, it's been my personality, and that is how we've gotten to where we are today with starting So We Are Silent Disco, which, like you mentioned, is facilitating a version of therapy on the beach for a group of strangers. And so I would say I'm pretty famous for just being a free spirit and dancing to my own beat in rhythm, not really going with the norm or following my own flow.
Awesome. Well, hey, that sounds like what I call realizing your popularity.
Yes.
Like not caring what other people think. You are just embracing yourself and letting yourself shine.
Yes.
Yeah. How did you come to create So We Are Silent Disco?
How we came is like my whole life's journey of how it led me to starting this. I'll just give a brief background. So when I was about 17 years old, I started to develop very weird health issues. And then I ended up getting my gallbladder taken out. Turns out then I lost all the muscle function of my stomach. And so I had something called gastroparesis, which is like the paralyzation of your stomach muscles. And they basically like just learn to live with it. And then through my gut getting so messed up, it messed up my like central nervous system. And I then was diagnosed with something called complex regional pain syndrome, which is basically like your nervous system, your fight or flight is just cranked on so permanently that your nerves don't know the difference. Everything's a fight. It's like, the concept of an autoimmune disease where your body's fighting itself, that's basically what my nervous system was doing against myself. And so everything was painful. I was in a wheelchair. I like couldn't wear pants because the sensation of pants hitting my legs were just unbearable. And I was a senior in high school and I had a full ride to go play Division I softball. So it was like, this is really bad timing. I need to figure this out fast. And so after just like speed dating doctors and trying to get help, because again, I had this end goal of going to play college softball in Ohio, I then went to the Mayo Clinic and I lived there for about 3 months of the end of my semester in high school. And that was basically like nervous system boot camp. I think it's looking back, I don't think I am where I am without it. Do I think knowing what I know now about the body and nervous system, there's other ways to heal? Yes. But I am eternally grateful for the Mayo Clinic and the healing boot camp clinic I went through there to get my body back to a baseline where then I could learn to function again, learn to live again, wear pants again, go play college softball again. But through that, I learned to understand, or I interpreted my body as something that was a barrier to me living out my life. I was mad at my body. I was fully disconnected because it wasn't serving me. So let's just override it. Something at the Mayo Clinic that they teach is pain behaviors are bad. So acknowledging the body is bad there, because when you're in a cycle of chronic pain, sometimes saying everything hurts keeps you on a loop. And so what they do is they fully X that part out. And if you say your legs hurt, if you say something hurts, you're going to get your phone taken away. There's a, not reward, the opposite of reward. There's a punishment. Consequence, yes, yeah, to having pain behaviors. And so through that as well, because then my mom was trained, because I was still under 18, my mom was trained to then anytime I made any sort of acknowledgement to my body, to shut it down. And so through that, and then going to be a Division I athlete where your body is your results, your body is what is paying you to be at college softball, your body is all these things, to be pretty disconnected from it. Also living 3,000 miles away from home, in a new state that I've never been to. It was just a journey that led me to really finding that mind, body, spirit, not connected, disconnected fully. I moved back home and finished out my college softball career at Cal State Fullerton. Through that, I started to get internships and fun things were unfolding. And I was like, wow, things really are working out for me. Even me going to Cal State Fullerton was the start of wow, something's kind of on my side here. I don't know, this, none of this makes sense, but I'm just going to go with it. I wasn't good enough to play there, but somehow they paid me to go there too. There was just a lot of things that were unfolding that I was this is really wild. And my roommate was a stranger. And then she gave me this internship that was the most incredible, you could never get internship, but she worked there and we really need someone your age. Do you want to come interview? And I had never talked to that girl before. And then I got this internship that led me to the most amazing summer of my whole life. And then
what was that?
It wasn't necessarily what it was. I worked as a sales intern for a company called Siemens, but it was just my first experience in it's a very massive company. And I got to just go see so many things. It was fire life safety. So it doesn't sound sexy, but the things that they let me do, they gave me a car. They gave me, it was amazing pay. I don't know how I got a car as an intern. They literally, they would just you want a car? And so I got a Ford Fusion drive around with I didn't have to pay for my gas. Just amazing things were happening. I was okay. And then I was finishing out my senior year of college softball, and it came to the point where, because I was so sick my freshman year, I technically did not play. I redshirted. So I had a 5th year of eligibility, but I was done with college. So if I took the 5th year, I could go do XYZ. I could do a master's, I could do more classes, whatever I wanted to do, I could just play the 5th year. Well, that is the beginning of my spiritual awakening, of falling to my knees. I don't know if I should play it or not. Like I don't really want to, but my family feels like I should. Softball's kind of this weird identity that I only know. I know there's other fun things because I just did this internship, but I just feel like I'm letting people down, but I feel like I shouldn't, whatever. I asked for a sign. That was my first time. Like, I was sobbing on my apartment floor. I was like, whatever's there, can I have a sign like that I should quit or stay or whatever? The next day, like the clearest of clear signs like happened. And I was like, oh, okay, I think I just got my sign. Like, there's no ignoring that.
What was it?
I didn't normally play that. I didn't play that much. And when I did play, I did very, very well. I had like a 0.00 ERA. Like, it was all good. And then I went into this game and my body like did not know how to pitch. Like, I physically could not pitch. And then when they would hit if the person like at to bat hit the ball because I was a pitcher, every player made an error behind me. It was just like very obvious, like, don't do this. And I was like, okay. And then I was like, okay, well, if that was my sign, because I'm not really sure I can trust that, even though I knew it was, I was like, can you give me another one? And then I went into practice that day and we had made it to postseason. And then my coach like walked up to me and was like, hey, you're like not dressing out. Like, you can't wear your uniform. We only have a roster of so much. So like, you have to sit out and just wear like your workout shorts and stuff. And I was like, well, there's my second sign. So then as soon as I officially committed to like, okay, I'm just going to say it out loud and tell everyone I'm not coming back. Doors flung open, like for corporate America, for all things. Like, it was amazing. And if we look at it, first of all, my wife now would have been my coach in 2020. And that's when we started dating, like an assistant coach. She wasn't the head coach, but so we could have possibly never be married today if I would have played that fifth year, because how our story originated wouldn't have happened. I also, it was COVID. I would have been in college during COVID, but I left and had a stable job and everything during that horrible, I kind of liked the COVID time, but like that scary time, I had it all taken care of. And then I was in this fresh new relationship. There were so many things that worked out in 2020 alone that were like, oh my God, like it's like a totally different timeline if I would have said yes to playing another year. And so through COVID, that is where I was like, do I like what I'm doing? I was a commercial insurance broker. So I was like property and casualty, workers' comp, and I was like the middleman between insurance and businesses. And so I also like, they'd be like, this is so expensive. I'd be like, you're right. Like, I think you're overpaying for this. Like, I never was like aggressively like I'm an aggressive person in like going after what I want and like the goals. And like, I really was money motivated. And so like, but like, there was something about insurance that was just so messed up that I was like, and then COVID happened and everything shut down. And I was like, what am I doing? Like, what is this what I want? Especially because everyone was freaking out and like insurance was like cutting people off. And it was just like so cutthroat and so inhumane that I was like, I don't think I want to be a part of this. Also, I just don't have any desire. Like, I literally don't care. And so through that, I started exploring just like my spiritual awakening, because I used to commute like an hour to get to work, an hour and a half back. And there was never time to implement I'm using quotes, to implement my spiritual practices. I was just consuming all of it. I was just really taking in all that spirituality had to offer, but I never applied anything. And then when the COVID happened, I started to like apply these like teachings and lessons and like, let's try this, like starting to see like that unfold and like, wow, like life can be awesome. Like, and like really tapping into like what like you're manifesting no matter what you're doing, but intentionally like trying to call things in and seeing it come to life. It was just amazing. And so I actually did like, there's something called Ecstatic Dance LA. And it's not really like So We Are Silent Disco. It's only similar in the sense that they wear headphones and it's on the beach, but it's more ecstatic dance. It's more like tribal music. It's just like different. And they had it on Zoom. And I like was doing it in COVID, peak COVID, in my mom's backyard on Zoom with my whole family, just like standing there like, what are you doing? Going back to why I'm famous, like me flailing my body in my mom's backyard. And it just came out of my mouth. I was like, well, I'm going to facilitate this one day. I had no idea there was like something to even be facilitated. I just knew whatever was going on this like Zoom situation that I was going to be a part of. And so then I started exploring, and there's some other similar things to Ecstatic Dance LA, a lot of things in LA that you can find, a lot of dance healing modalities. And I was trained by someone named Julia Grace, and she is a dance movement therapist and taught a group of us how to facilitate these healing spaces, like using dance movement therapy practices. And it was like a 6-week, 2-month training. And it was from then on, like it was a retreat after. And I was like, I can't go. I have to do this. And so from there, that is how So We Are Silent Disco was born. I quit my corporate job and then started my podcast, So She Is. And then I was like, oh, if we have So She Is, what if my silent disco So We Are? So then it's like this loop around of just different brand packaging within. And that's the long-winded story of like how So We Are came to be, because through doing those ecstatic dance practices, even on Zoom, and the girl that I learned from, like doing some of her classes, really helped me get back into my body. Like ecstatic dance was the one thing where it wasn't like, I'm not great at meditating. I'm not great at being still. I have ADHD. Like your girl is like got 1,000 thoughts going on. And I know meditating is good, but like movement also is a form of meditation. It has like that bilateral stimulation with both of your feet going. There is different ways to meditate than just sitting on a pillow. And I found my greatest relief and strength through moving and releasing and embodying just different things and allowing things to move through my body as well. And I just knew that since my body has always been my thing to work through, that I needed to bring this to the world.
What a great story.
Ever since.
It totally has. It is. It's such a scintillating activity. And oh my gosh, Katie, wow. The way that you were so persistent in getting the help that you needed, really, that's so inspiring. Some people would just stay in the wheelchair.
Well, I do credit a lot to my mom. She wasn't going to let me. She's equally a fighter and advocate for me. She was going to champion me. And I think it goes back to just like kind of being, I mean, I was like an athlete, like there was no, like college athletes, it's like borderline unhealthy and toxic of like, show up, you show up no matter what. There's like literally no excuse. And so whether I had to like show up to college in a wheelchair and try to play, like it was going to happen no matter what because of my mindset just with it. And that was going to be my truth. But also without my mom, a lot of people in the medical world get pushed over, if you are persistent enough, you will get your way. Like, I mean, just a lot of people don't fight for it because it's so easy for them to make you feel like looked over. Like, sorry, you can't get an appointment for 5 months. Like, and it's like, okay.
Right.
It's like, I'm sure we could get it. I'm sure we could get in. Like, we'll come.
Yeah.
We'll come wait in the lobby. And we've done that. My mom. Yeah, she's a great woman for supporting me. So I'm lucky in that sense because not everyone has a mom like that. That when you can't advocate for yourself because you're 17, like it really is on your caretaker to step in and also decide we're not going to let this be the truth.
Let me ask you this, because this could be a little bit controversial. So, say what you will about it. But, Louise Hay, I think, was the one who kind of popularized this idea of dis-ease. Mm-hmm. So do you feel like perhaps part of it was a bit of a dis-ease where you might have been worried about going away or playing softball or didn't feel like you were in, the place where you needed to be? Or how was that?
This is something that has recently come to light because I believe that my body feels safer being sick than being well. And if it could just tap out, it will, to protect. I recently, with starting So We Are, I was I got not very sick. It's not the same level, but I developed gnarly anxiety this summer, panic attacks. I was constantly having to use the restroom and the IBS type of symptoms. And if anyone has IBS, it's like with chicken or the egg. Like, is it your stomach or is your mind making the things happen? But then through going to intense therapy and naturopaths and I didn't have parasites, I was eating well. I could barely eat, but it was just, but so much was taking off in my life. We were getting every opportunity. We were going viral. Things were starting to take off. And then I got the sicker I got. And so I know that my body, again, feels safer being unwell than well, because it's what? When I worked with my therapist, she would talk about the effects of overwhelm. And sometimes while overwhelm can be so positive, there's the opposite side of overwhelm where everything could fall apart. This could all go to waste. This is not safe. And so my body, again, like has a window of tolerance that if I push outside of it, I know that its first response is to shut down and find a way to get my attention. And that also comes from me neglecting it. So I did not know how to process emotion until maybe I was like in my 20s. Like I didn't even know how to cry per se until I microdosed on mushrooms for an extended amount of months. And then I got in touch with my emotions. But I was like, I'm the third kid, like, and I was like the toughest, and I was like the most competitive. And so like, I didn't even know what I was feeling. So if I was feeling overwhelmed at the time when I got sick, I didn't know it. I now have the self-awareness to like look at the summer and be like, I know something's going on that's making me feel very unsafe. But I didn't have the language, like awareness or anything when I was younger to have that. But that is the constant pattern that shows up for me. And so I do agree that disease, especially chronic illnesses and things of that autoimmune world, all comes from internal turmoil. But that doesn't like discredit how real it is. I think a lot of the times when people have these like mystery illnesses or things, it's very easy to discredit things you can't see. Or even sometimes you can. Like I break out into hives easy if I'm overwhelmed. Sometimes you can't physically see it, or you are physically sick, but then it's like, well, there's nothing wrong with you. Like that is something that a lot of people will hear and get in the world of, because nothing shows up on a lab, but that doesn't mean that real things aren't physically manifesting. And also that internal world and the external world are together, and it's not all your fault. It's not all the internal world. It's just how it's showing up. And there's often a lot of layers to dive into there. And
yeah, for sure. And that's why that's why I asked you before we started, is dance therapy, as you call it, movement as medicine? Is that somatic healing? I didn't even know what somatic healing was until maybe a couple months ago when I saw a lot of it on my Instagram feed. And I was like, what is this exactly? And just even today, I went and Googled it, and like it comes from the Greek word soma, which means your body minus your reproductive organs. I don't know why they don't include those, but so this movement as medicine, I think it's a really interesting idea, and it is exactly the panacea maybe that you needed, right? And so many people can benefit from, because I feel I've coined this term that we have an emotional metabolism. And if we don't metabolize our emotions, whether we're not identifying them or we do identify them and we hold them in, or whatever it is, sometimes you can't mindset your way out of that. Sometimes you need to move it out of you. Mm-hmm. And when you were at this lowest point of being in the wheelchair and like being so sick and then having complications of that, and now you're leading people in this movement as medicine. Mm-hmm. That's so wonderful.
Yes. I mean, the one thing that you can't do is gaslight your body. And it's going to what you're saying. Like, you can't mindset your way out of how you're actually feeling. It's so easy, especially if doctors or the world or your symptoms are just like, or your blood work like doesn't show something like cancer, let's just say, like a very obvious form of attack on your body. You can go, oh, it's no big deal. But you literally can't gaslight your body into something that's not a big deal, because your body knows. Your body is like all knowing, and it's going to hold on to things until it releases, and it's gonna do whatever it needs to do to get your attention until you until you address it. Sometimes it feels so heavy and hard, and I truly do believe healing's not easy and it's not love and light. And I recently heard this thing where it's like, when you say like, oh, sending you love and light, like that maybe isn't as helpful as I'm in the mud with you. Like, I'm here with you. We're in the mud. Like, we don't have to be all like sparkly warkle. We don't have to be scintillating all the time. we can be in the dark and the heavy. And that's where I think the somatic healing is so helpful, because you might not even have conscious awareness of what's going on. But my friend is a somatic healer and has worked with different modalities within somatic healing beyond dance, and more like somatic experiencing. And there's a lot of things you can look into if this work seems interesting to you. Like, she just has explained to me so much, like how trauma and the different ways it shows up, like you literally can't think your way through it. You might not even have access because your brain protects you from the full thing, but you don't have to know it to move through it. You don't have to go, okay, stomach, like you hurt really bad. Like, what happened when we were 5? But maybe what happened when you were 5 is manifesting as this pain that is like tied to rage or shame or these different parts of you, like different, if you're familiar with internal family systems, we're made of all these parts. And maybe it's just this part of you that's physically manifesting with it as stomach pain, and just acknowledging and like giving love. Like, I love you. You are a part of me. Like, I don't hate you. You're welcome to be a part of this family system. And like, we can let the rage out in like more aggressive ways. We can let the rage out in like, there's a specific word, but I can't remember it. But there's different ways to like express rage or shame or like deep grief or just like loneliness. Like, it doesn't have to be the specific memory, but the body knows what emotions attached to it. And that's where I think a lot of things come up. Is that clear? Like, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
I just felt like a tangent where I was like, I don't know if I loop back around.
It is.
Okay.
I wanted to ask you about the science behind it. Are there some like statistics that you know about, or what is the science behind that?
The first like scientific thing I have to offer is the reason that I do the silent discos on the beach. And so the ocean provides negative ions, which are natural antidepressants. So, I mean, just getting outside in general will help, like the salt water and waterfalls, like if you don't by the ocean, any like form of like water in nature provides these negative ions that serve as like natural antidepressants. There's also like the fact that like emotions are energy in motion. And so when we connect our body and start to move it and bring motion, that's why emotions can sometimes come up when we move our body, because when we're stagnant and everything stays the same and we're not addressing it, like the emotions, I like imagine little like particles are just like moving like one way. And then when we bring these physical motions and start to move and start to like cognitively like bring in like, what does like make me feel mad? What does make me feel really good? And then we can move it through. That's why so often people cry or have these like scream or just like letting out things. And it's good. I scream in a pillow probably every single day. So you don't even have to come to a silent disco or dance or anything. And shaking, if we look at shaking and what that does with the body, we have, we're all mammals. So we have a mammalian nervous system. Having that, we can look at our fellow mammals that are not humans that survive and don't have support groups or therapy or things of that nature. If you think of like when a gazelle outruns a lion after being chased, it literally has to move on. And so how it does that and resets its nervous system is by shaking. And so that's been like a scientifically proven thing. Like if you are feeling stagnant, if you are feeling stuck, if you're feeling a lot of things, that you can tap into shaking your body just fully. And it is a form to reset your nervous system. And it's a very effective if you're feeling very dull. If you find yourself like, oh wow, I just scrolled for a long time. Like I need to like, I don't know what to do. I'm like a zombie right now. I always tap into shaking there. I just got certified in something called, I took the first step into getting certified, and it's called rapid resolution therapy. It's a completely different therapy modality. It's by someone named John Connolly. They tapped into the idea of that gazelle lion, let's say, or he is a zebra, but we'll say gazelle. The lion doesn't want the gazelle to be afraid because it makes the lion's job a lot harder. Because when you are afraid, the gazelle's muscles get stronger, there's blood flowing, they are ready to go. And what the lion would prefer is that it was just taking a nap and resting, maybe drinking some water, like maybe eating some grass.
Right, probably tastes better too.
Probably tastes a lot better if it was chilling. So it's this concept that you can sit with and play with. Fear and things of that nature are only our interpretation, because the lion doesn't want the gazelle to be afraid. And the gazelle's interpretation of the lion that makes it feel like it's this big threat. And that's just another way of looking at everything we perceive is through our own filtering system. And so maybe my stuff going viral sends me into a thing, but the people engaging with my video don't want me to be afraid or don't want me to have this anxiety that we hold. There's just so many different ways to look at how fear shows up in the body. And it doesn't make it not real, but there's almost this form of like, okay, I'm in the driver's seat. It is my, not even like responsibility, because it is what it is. It's just like, what if we looked at it like the world isn't trying to make us afraid? What if all these things we are perceiving as threats are actually just our interpretation of what they are. Because again, the lion doesn't want all the blood going to the muscle so it can outrun it. Makes its life a lot harder. And so that's just like a fun thing that I've been learning and like sitting with, like when I do feel a hit of anxiety or like fear or things, like would it be better for the other side if I was just relaxed? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my gosh. Wow, this episode is awesome. I'm just going to call a quick TO to tell you about Nutrition with Megs. It's a body positive nutrition mentoring so that you can optimize your physique, whatever that means for you. So if you started this year thinking, I've got a couple pounds I need to lose, and you haven't done it so far, and you're not sure how you're going to do it, this help I'm offering is for you. I know we're all curious beings, so take a look at the link in the bio, and that should give you more information. Losing fat is a science, but habit formation, that is a whole nother story. So I'm here to hold your hand, pat your back, cheer for you, and lead the way. All right, I better get back to that episode. I'll see you in the show notes. Thank you for sharing that science behind that too. That's really cool. Any other science facts or those?
There's just a lot in the brain with neural pathways and things of that nature. And so the more that you do something, the deeper the grooves get of the neural pathways. And so when you're trying on different things or trying different movement, then you can start to create new neural pathways because it's like a plant. And what you water, you put in the soil, like the seeds, the soil's going to grow as long as the soil's nurtured and loved. And that's how I look at beliefs. That's how I look at like the neural pathways. Your brain's going to take it and grow what is nurtured, loved, given sunlight, given water. So if we start to like move in new ways, we can start to create different neural pathways and like that, like neuroplasticity of like the fact of dancing on the beach is going to expand you in a way that like makes your brain also expand and fire new neurons of like, what are we doing? But also this is so fun. But like, and then we have those negative ions coming in of like, wow, like I'm going to be okay kind of vibes. And so but like neural pathways, neuroplasticity, it's all so interesting to me. And there's also something called quantum entanglement, which is the concept of like, because you and I, like if we bumped into someone in the grocery store, we'd be forever entangled because of that energy exchange of touching. And so often people say like, who am I to try to make a difference in the world? Who am I to like, what does me raising my vibe do for the world when everything's going to shit kind of vibe? Sorry if I don't know if I can cuss, but
oh, hell yeah, you can cuss on here.
Like when the world looks so awful, like how could I help? That's where that quantum entanglement happens because I've connected with you. We've literally touched like anyone that comes to So We Are. And then thinking about how who they've all been encountered with in their whole life. And then thinking of that on like a quantum physics level of like literally by you raising your vibration and attuning to a new frequency. And this isn't bypassing. This is just literally doing things that feel good to you does raise the vibration of the planet. And I feel like that's been happening recently with like the healing movement that we've been in the past like 5 years. That's like expanding even further of like people being open to like therapy, open to dancing on the beach. It's like this collective up-leveling. When you feel miserable or hopeless or anything of that nature, I feel like that's where you can just like lean on like, oh no, like this is me doing my part. Me taking care of me is actually doing more for the world than me trying to do things that are completely unaligned, like, or doom scrolling or, you know, like just tapping into your own awesomeness, raising your vibe and feeling really good in your body is contagious and it will do more than thinking it won't. And again, there's so much, there's like, if we don't know what's true, why not believe it? That's like my biggest thing. I'm like, why not believe what feels the absolute best to you? Like when everything's a choice, ultimately you got to do what's good for you. And it's how we're going to go about these years that feel so heavy.
Katie, yay! Yes. Amen. Hallelujah. All that. That is so, I feel that. So, and I really did feel so uplifted and healed after I went to the So We Are silent disco. Like,
Oh, I'm so glad.
I cried. I laughed. I thought you were an excellent facilitator. And in fact, you said a few things that really have stayed with me and have kind of raised my vibe for,
I love it.
even a couple weeks later.
I love it.
And really, yeah. So let me tell you what you said, and we can talk about that. So the two things were, you said, why not me?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, I deserve all the happiness in the world, and I can achieve my goals and I can achieve my dreams. But you can talk more about why you said, why not me? But also you said, this could be the best day of your life. And even on a mundane, whatever Tuesday, without any expectation, but just putting it out there. I think for me, that gave me, it like opened my receiving hole so that I was able to bring in more joy and kind of notice the magical small moments and really, raise the vibration of just an everyday that is otherwise just another brick in the wall, but it could be a happy, joyous brick, or like one I enjoyed. And those two things right there, because I used to tell myself a lot, you can't do that. Like, my brain actually told me that on loop, like, you can't do that. You can't do that. Instead, replacing that, like you said, like a seed, replacing it with, why not me? Mm-hmm. Why not me? I could do it.
Yeah. This year, because I felt like I was so, like I mentioned earlier, that I was so anxious and feeling like very stuck. I physically felt like, there's freeze, fight, or fawn like responses. I felt like I was in freeze. Like, I just like couldn't move. And it was like, I'm just trying to get by. And so in this new year, I came in with this new energy and wanting to be just like delusionally obsessed with myself and like just tapping into that, like, why not me? Because I was starting to look back at what I've accomplished over 8 months or 10 months or however long it's been. It was like March of last year. I was like, that's really cool. Like, what's happened has been really cool. And like, imagine if like I believed I was worth it, if I believed like that it was happening. Like, and so that's kind of where the why not me came from. Cause I was going into this new year with that mindset of, wait, but like, why not? Like, we always tell ourselves these things, everyone does, of like, she could do it, but you can't. Like, do you see them? Like, they're doing so much. Like, and then it was like, well, why not me? Like, using people that are doing the things that you want as expanders for what's possible for you, because there's quite literally nothing different than you and me. Like, it's like the 5-minute or 4-minute mile. Like, once someone ran a 4-minute mile, then everyone runs a 4-minute mile now, but it just took one person doing it. So then it's like, well, if they could do it, why not me? And I actually was doing a team bonding, silent disco facilitation. I love doing like college athletic teams because it played, and that's kind of where it started. Like, I was like, why not this team? Because so often you're like, well, the UCLA or like the big names are gonna like do it, and it's like, but like, is that decided? Or are we just deciding that? So like, why not you guys? And then to the point of the best day of your life, honestly, how that started, that's like one of my favorite things to do, that song. One time I just found that song and then I played it. That was just like a not the one you guys came to, because I've played it before in the past, but that it was just like a channeled message that came out. Like, I had no thought behind it, but I was like it's just going back to like, we take for granted so much that what if like this moment right now was the best day of your life? Like, what if this is the best it gets? And I just love living in that, because like you said, it opens you up. It keeps you in like joy. You're like, wow, like this scintillating brick it might be the coolest brick I ever see in my whole life. Like, I may never get this back. And it's so easy to get so wrapped up like in the mundane, like the busy work, the boring, and then like you just forget, like, oh my God, like literally anything could happen tomorrow. So like, what if like today's last day and this is the best day ever? And that whole concept had no thought behind it. It just happened, and then I really loved it, because I'm into affirmations in a sense, but I like affirmations like that, like, why not me? Or like, this is the best day of my life. That's like almost like a declaration, not like I am worthy. Like, not things that have been oversaid. It's like, it's more of like a mind shift, like a question mark. Like, wait, what if this was? Or like, why not me? You know? And that's why I do love, I'm glad those sticked with you, because I also, it's my 2023 mood. Delusion era.
I am all about it. I am on board. That is a total vibe, and it's going to get you far. I feel it because, just recently asking myself that. And I mentioned it in the last podcast, and one of my dear friends who just called me and was like, oh my God, that changed my day. So see, this is
I
the
love
ripple,
it.
Katie.
Yeah.
What did you call it? Like quantum
entanglement.
Yeah.
Quantum entanglement. It's like that's like, it's like just one piece to one piece to one piece, and then it all spreads around. And I think like that's the funny part. Like, someone after the last disco we had came up to me like, oh my God, you're like a little guru. Like, how'd you know to say that? Or how'd, like, all these things. And I was like, first of all, that's like kind of comical to me. I am not in any way your guru, but there is that inner guru within you that knew to listen, that knew to take that word, that allowed that to be like yourself open to that, like, or receive what I was saying or connect with what I was saying. Like, that has nothing to do with me. And it goes back to everything we've talked about today, like the lens, like the lion gazelle, like the interpretation of how you see and hear the world. Because for one person that might make me sound like a guru, the other person that might make me sound crazy. But it's all within you, and it's all how you filter life and see life. And I just think that's so important to remember. And it's like empowering, but it's also could make you feel like a little bit tense when you're like, it is on you. It is you. So why not you? If it's only you, if this is the you got, let's work with it. And let's make it the most magical thing you've ever seen, because like literally no matter where you go, there you are. So like you can't escape as much as you want. And I think trying to integrate that and just like come to terms with that is a process. But like once you're there, you're like, well, let's fucking go. Like, let's do it then. Like, instead of like complaining about it, hating it, escaping it, like trying to like obsessively change it. And I can only say these things because I've been there. Anything that I have like, I feel passionately about, it's because I've been on the other end of the spectrum. I'm a all or nothing type of girl. So like, I don't really halfway do much. And so if there's a spectrum of things, I've been on both sides. I'm a pendulum swinger. And so that's where it's like, I've been so obsessive. I've been like, so like in my own head, in my own everything, like almost like playing the victim role, but trying to like dress it up like I wasn't. And then that's where it just comes back to like, no, like knock it off. You can, you are fully capable. And like, that's where tapping into that delusion. Like, if you can't believe it, then just call yourself delusional and do it anyway. Like, like I'm just like doing this experiment for a year where I'm being absolutely delusional. If it doesn't work out, then it's fine. But I at least have to give it my best shot and see where it goes.
Awesome. Yes. Do it. Yeah. And I am your hype crew because you are doing it. And I mean, Katie, I cannot imagine this world without So We Are Silent Disco. I know I haven't been back because I actually hurt my knee. I was jumping around so much on the beach.
No,
and
no, I think it's cold. I honestly do think it's because it's cold. Like, I'm like, I feel like this is a way higher risk for injury, but I'm excited for the summer when it comes back and it's not as hard on the joints. But oh no, I'm so sorry, but I can't wait for you to join when you're healthy.
Yes, I know. And you know what else? I like peed myself too, because like as a mom, when you like jump around, it's like just something that happens. I was like, I peed myself 3 times and I totally like, I hurt my knee, but I love it. And I want to go back, and it feels like church, but in not a churchy way, you know, in the way that like you feel so good after you're done. It's about an hour and a half and there's fellowship. And there's crying, there's happiness, there's laughter, you just like are on a high after you leave, or at least that's how I felt. That was my experience, but I just cannot imagine this world without it. So you keep going, keep shining brightly, keep realizing this thing. This is a whole movement, and it's that means that it's going somewhere. Right?
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. You're so sweet.
It really is.
Thank you.
Yeah. No, it's all truth. It's not even me being sweet. It really is truth, Katie. So
I receive it.
So you gotta, you know, I can't even imagine it has to go.
Yep.
You gotta go.
That's what we're doing. That is what we're doing here.
So this is a MegaFest signature questions. Now, you are a movement as medicine guru, not guru, but you facilitator. And so I can only imagine that there's going to be an awesome song that just will get you on the dance floor. Just totally unhinge you and just like be your, I'm sure it's a bunch of songs.
There is so many. For reference, the Best Day of Your Life song that I played and mentioned is Best Day of My Life. It's a Gazzo remix, so Gazzo remix by American authors. That one, I just wanted to share so then everybody who have heard, like, can listen to it every day and then tap into that.
Yeah.
But there's honestly, like, the song that's coming to my mind is that song that's like, it's like, I think it's called Belly Dancer, and it's by Akon or something, like, don't be shy, go boom, dun, 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 dun. I've been listening to that on my runs, and that song today would get me to just like flail, twerk, do everything on the dance floor. But again, if you are looking for anyone listening that's looking for playlists and things, I do have Spotify mood playlists in my link tree where you can tap into any mood that you're in. And I have a lot of fun like adding songs to those as I go through life. So there's a plethora of music. I'm pretty sure one of the Belly Dancer remixes is on there, so the one I've been running to. So if you need to hear it, go check it out.
Yes. Oh, I love learning about new music. So I'm going to have to, I'm sure I've heard that song, but I got to go listen again.
It's like it's a classic one, but it's like not classic. It's like from the 2000 like hip hop era, but like it's this one remix that I just like gets me fired up.
Katie, you are so fired up, and I feel your fire, and I'm like, like a hot air balloon. I'm just like lifted up by it. So in parting, which is such sweet sorrow because I just enjoy you so much, what do you want to leave the person listening today with? Like, is there anything that we didn't cover or a little tidbit, anything at all?
I think I'm just going to go off of like what you said and like with what stuck with you. And so I think I would just tell whoever's listening to this to try on the phrase, why not you? To try on the phrase, this is the best day of my life, and just seeing how it goes and feels and lands in your body. There also is something that I love to say, and I do actively, and that is anytime that you make eye contact with a stranger or human, could be kid, spouse, whatever, say in your head, I mean, you can say it out loud, but it's a little bit weirder if it's a stranger. So you can say it in your head if you're like at the grocery store, whatever. And then just, anytime you make eye contact, just in your head say, I see you through the lens of love. It really shifts your energy. It's like the cashier is checking you out, and then you're like, I see you through the lens of love in your head. And it makes life softer. It makes life lighter. And it's honestly for you to explore and see how your frequency changes. But honestly, like, I do believe like love will always win. You can't like hate something into existence. Like, you are loved into existence. Saying, I see you through the lens of love to a stranger in your head every time you pass someone, every time, like, it's a muscle. But once you start doing it, it's just like that goes through my head every time I make eye contact with someone new now. And then why not you? And that's the best day of your life. Cause as of today, this is the best day of my life. So thank you for having me on.
Yay! Oh, Katie, you are touching my heart. That's like making tears of joy come to my eyes just because even just thinking about that. Yeah. And just imagine how that could just reverberate out, send ripples of love just around.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and nobody, they'll feel
amazing.
It. They'll feel it. And it doesn't take any bravery because it's just eye contact. Like, that, it was going to happen anyway. And so, like, why not amplify those little moments?
You are so scintillating that it's just like, it's like, I can feel it. And not only, everywhere in every cell of my body. So thank you so much, Katie.
Of course.
Please keep silent discoing.
I will. I will be keeping going.
Thank you so much.
Amazing.
Oh, thank you. All right. All right. Oh, Katie is so great. I felt so honored to spend that time with her. So a couple of things that struck me about Katie was her rebound from being in a wheelchair to now on her movement as medicine. And she mentioned she has ADHD and she can't sit down and stop her brain from working, but she can kind of meditate and move through her feelings and get into the flow by moving around, by dancing. Katie mentioned that the ocean has negative ions, and I had never heard that before, even though I've grown up in California by the water my whole entire life. So according to puraveda.org, and you can look this up on your own Google search, negative ions are oxygen molecules with an extra negatively charged electron. Positive ions are molecules that have lost one or more electrons. So the translation to our health is that negative ions are good for our health, even though they're negative, and positive ions are damaging to our health. Positive ions are produced by electrical equipment, such as televisions, microwave ovens, maybe laptop computers. The highest concentration of positive ion exists in cities, crowded places, offices, schools, cars, etc. Yikes, that sounds like my life. So let's all get some negative ions. Let's get some negative ions so we can be positive. Katie mentioned something about the mammalian nervous system and the practice of, let's say, after a gazelle is chased by a lion and it doesn't have a shrink it could go see or like a friend it can talk to. It just has to like shake out all of those fight or flight brain chemicals. It has to shake it out. And I think that somatic healing is the same thing, where sometimes we have to physically move the emotions through our body. Another cool thing Katie talked about was quantum entanglement, which I totally am a fan of, because when I took the Clifton Strengths Finder test, my number one strength was believing that all people are connected through past generations, future generations, cultures, like we are all connected. I don't know how that's a strength, but I do believe that. And so quantum entanglement really makes sense to me, that we're all connected. And just by brushing up against each other or coming into contact with each other, we can have a difference. We can let off our own negative ions and really send that out in the world. If you can affect one person and then they affect the next person, and it really is just like a ripple of good vibes going out into the world. And finally, oh my freaking goodness, if you do not take that tip from Katie about saying in your head, I see you through the lens of love, you are cray-cray. Because talk about making a difference in the world. That is the kind of quantum entanglement that I want to come in contact with. And I'm sure you do too. Let's let everybody know that they are welcome in this world. We need more So We Are Silent Discos all around the globe. And in fact, Katie is now accepting applications for people to become facilitators. So you could host your own So We Are Silent Disco in your community. And maybe you don't have an ocean next to you, but maybe you have a lake or a waterfall or a river or, even a forest or some sort of nature is going to be a great place to get out and get some fresh air and dance around and heal yourself. So pending world domination, you can find Katie on Instagram at SoWeAre_Silent Disco. Their website is SoWeAreSilentDisco.com. And she has a podcast called So She Is Podcast. And the one episode I did listen to, because I'm more into books these days, not podcasts, but I had to listen. And I was completely uplifted and mind blown and had so many great takeaways. So it's definitely worth a listen. Speaking of listening, thank you so much for being here. I am just so humbled by you giving me your attention, and I'm just so grateful for you. Thank you. I see you through the lens of love. All that we talked about today, that is what megafesting is all about. Because we don't just manifest, we megafest.